It's time again for another installment of The Basics, and on today's show I'm taking a bit of a sharp turn away from CCGs. And you've seen me cover board games on this show before, and today I'm going to cover a board game that nobody knows about because this is a game I've created myself. I've been developing it for the past few months, and without any further ado, I have to show you what it is. Now, let me just start by saying that anyone who's played Dungeons & Dragons and or Hero Quest, which was ironically one of my favorite board games of all time, might find similarities between those two games and this grid game I've created. I don't have a working title yet for this game. I just call it the grid game. And basically it's a piece of Bristol board with a laid out grid system and map of a either dungeon or castle, depending on what I'm going for, because it does change every round. And the object of the game is using Lego pieces as objects as well as players. The player must get out of the castle or the dungeon. Now, to do this, the player rolls a multi-sided die no higher than a 6, so a d6, and this game is played over the internet with friends on a voice channel. They use this mini-map, which is the same as you see on the big board, except it's miniature and it lists the room numbers. The idea of the room numbers is giving the player an idea of what room he's starting in. So in this case, the player's starting in room 2 for this setup. The player being this Lego man. So he would wake up on that bed in room 2, and then I would be narrating the story. The player would hit the floor, like so, and start his journey to find his way out of the either castle or dungeon. In the map are items that are placed to either help or hinder the player getting out of the castle or dungeon. Items that will be strewn about rooms, hidden in locked chests, and just left randomly on the floors of the corridors of the rooms. And I usually narrate the entrance and exit of each room, what the hallways look like, what's in the room, the objects in the room, and in what direction the player is going. So the player will roll that d6 and follow along on the mini-map here, which I've taken pictures of and sent to all my friends, and I can upload it at a later date if anyone's interested, and they will go about the map. There are perils in the map, obviously. There are locked doors that can only be opened using certain items or talking to certain people in the map. There are things like this bookcase that move to grant access to another part of the game map. Wooden walls that can either be hacked down or not bypassed. A robot, and little things called swerves, which might be the odd object that the player might think is necessary, but actually doesn't help them or do anything in regards to the game whatsoever. That being said, nothing is shown on the mini-map because the player must not only use the mini-map, but figure it out in their head what the rooms look like, what the object is, and if it's helpful or not. If I were to list everything on the mini-map, it wouldn't make sense because it would take the fun out of the game. Plus, I change the map around for every round. That would be the exit and the ways to open the locked doors and locked chests. Everything is changed from round to round, so no 2 rounds of this game are the same. That being said, I know someone's going to ask me why I go to all this trouble to create a new game, and I always find ways to improve things or come up with my own take on them because I'm that kind of a creative person. And this is something I've wanted to do for a long time, ever since I started playing Hero Quest many years ago, as well as witnessing some Dungeons & Dragons games over Skype, and the fact that I have all this Lego sitting around. So I decided to combine everything and come up with something original, which I did. That's all for today. Have a great day, everybody.